Hello, hello, hello. I am in my greenhouse. This is just a temporary greenhouse. I have my wash table here. I use clay to wash dishes with it. It's real good for your skin. And I have my artist table in here. This art piece here is almost finished. I brought this artist table from the other house. This is a very narrow one that fits in here really well. And then I have my sewing material, and I'm gonna bring my sewing table and I'll put that in the back, and I'll be sewing in here, and it's pretty awesome. And it will get hot in the summertime, but we are planning on putting a silver tarp on the roof, so that will also give extra protection from the rain because it might leak in. So that will work for shade and for water protection. And then I can use this really well as a work studio. This is really, really great. This works really well here, this sink here. This is so super. Washing everything with earth clay from the garden. It works extra good. Like if I have paint on my fingers, it gets all the paint off in seconds. It cuts into the grease better than soap. It is grainy a little bit. It has an exfoliation power. Also for the face too, which is really, really nice. And for your hands, leaves your skin smooth, and it doesn't hurt your skin or the fat in your pores that you're supposed to have. Okay, it doesn't get rid of all your natural materials in your skin. So soap, on the other hand, is aggressive. Alcohol is completely taboo. So any kind of alcoholic solution, hand sanitizer, I stay away from. Paul uses it. I don't want to use it. He's forced it on me several times because of the virus. And I don't want to use any kind of alcoholic creams or solutions or anything. So that's my conviction. Okay, so for healing and health. So I believe in natural substances, earth clays, hot spring water, natural water, mineral waters, spring water, even rainwater. We have rainwater collection system here. That works very, very well. And I do my gardening here with that. This is really, really nice. And it is warm in here. It's raining outside now, but it is warm in here. It is, I would say, 20 degrees warmer in here than it is outside of the greenhouse right now. So in here it is like 70 degrees, and outside it's about maybe 50 degrees or maybe 55. I don't know. So it got cold pretty rapidly. When the sun is up, it gets very, very warm. And then earlier I was painting in here while the sun was up, and it was like over 90 degrees. And I liked it because I like sweating and I like being really, really warm. But I'm very warm right now, so this is very nice. And it's very beautiful. I want to show this, but it is raining outside. Maybe I can tilt this a little bit. You can see this tree there is having purple flowers now. That is our purple rhododendron tree. And it is blooming now, and when it's in complete bloom, like I would say probably towards the end of May, beginning of June, it will be in complete bloom. The entire tree will be purple. The entire tree, you will almost not see any of the green leaves. All of those buds are going to open up into head size, deep purple, like old women's swimming hat type of flower bouquet. So the entire tree will be deep purple flowers, and it looks amazing. And the other tree already had been blooming. The other tree still has some. The other tree is like deep red, and deep red flowers. I already showed them in my videos. They're gorgeous. And sometimes I use those to wash my hand with. I rub them in my hands and then I rinse, and that's also a very, very mild, amazing soap, actually. But if you need to use something that is very strong, then I recommend washing your hands with earth clay, but not in a regular sink, because that will clog the pipes. So there are the neighbor's dogs. Hello, baby girls. Oh, yeah. Hello, baby. Oh, baby girl. Oh, baby girls. Oh, yeah, they are so sweet. They look like Shih Tzu type of dog mix. So very sweet. So I haven't been feeling very good. I wasn't even sure if I was gonna make a video today, because I have been feeling pretty sad, more than sad. I wouldn't call it depression, because depression, maybe it is depression, I don't know, but it's not the same as it was in the past when I had really serious depression. So it has a more radical energy about it. That's why I don't call it depression. When I get sad, it gets raw. It's always been kind of raw, but maybe it has just intensified. So with the rawness, with the realness of it. In the past, I didn't really know what these feelings were. That I was battered by my mother, and for most of my life I didn't even know what was going on at all. I couldn't even put my finger on it, like I didn't really know what was going on. I knew that my mother wasn't treating me right, but I could not even really point the finger at it, what it was. But I know it now. So she hated me, okay, and she tried to disguise that. On one hand, she also didn't want me to suffer. She cared about me on one hand, and that was very difficult for me to accommodate these two very, very divergent emotional states that my mother had, that were there simultaneously. So it was like a warped energetic field, a completely twisted energetic field that came from my mother towards me. Hate on one side, I didn't know why. I could not figure it out. Now, looking back, I know what it was. let's be blunt about it. She was jealous. Okay, that's what it was. She was jealous. And that started very early. That started long before puberty. Very jealous. That started before my brother was born. That started, I would say it started at age 2. And she had postpartum depression after I was born. She could not be happy to get the baby. She was in a serious depression that threw her over with all of these hormonal turbulences that a woman goes through when they give birth. Thank goodness I didn't have to experience that. Okay, thank goodness I spared myself that trouble. Okay, because I felt like if I would give birth, it would get so bad with me, with the mental illness, that I would commit suicide. So that was one of the things that deterred me from that idea. And then the other one was that the boyfriend I had at that time, long-term boyfriend I had, was schizophrenic. So that was not the right father material, definitely. Although he wanted 4 children with me. And for a while I was like, yay! Yay! Let's do it. And then I told my mother, and she started to have nightmares about that. Like terror visions in her head over that. And she told me that. Of course, she told me that too. Lots of little schizophrenic red-headed children in her home, that are not quite right in the head. So, and then I had a vision. That vision came to me just like that. I was riding my bicycle, put my bicycle on the bicycle stand in front of that 5-story, 6-story building where we lived. I don't remember, we lived in the 4th floor or something. No elevator, we had to walk up. That was good. And the moment I was chaining my bicycle up, I had this vision that Norbert would sexually molest his little daughters at age 2 or 3. And that's also an indicator towards my childhood. So, and I thought, no, I'm not going to let that happen. Okay, I'm not going to let that happen. And that's that was long before I knew about antinatalism. That was long before I knew about Professor Benatar, who has written that book, Better Never to Have Been, something like this, a title like that. It's hard for me to remember the correct wording, but the title is like that. And he makes a very, very logical argument for antinatalism, for not bringing existence into existence. The whole book is about that. It's a very, very meticulous, very well thought out, very scientific book. Okay, he's a professor of philosophy, and he's not against life or anything. He's just thinking these are thought experiments, He's not, I don't know, I don't think he has children, but he's not like a hardcore, die-hard, fundamental believer in this or that, I don't think he's a die-hard antinatalist. I have seen some of those, okay? some people, they take something like this, like a philosophy, and they run off with it into some kind of, they think that's their psychological refuge from mental illness. So people take all kinds of things to run off into some direction in order to get away from pain. That's not Dr. Benatar. He is a super reasonable, meticulous, scientific type of person. He is a meticulous and super honest philosopher. Okay. So just like more like a theorem, or some kind of, like a very thorough thought development. Thought developmental essays, theses, or just volume, whatever you want to call it. So it is a philosophical work. That's what it is. And in philosophy, these things are not like, those are rather proposals. A real honest philosopher writes a book in the sense of proposal, not in the sense of written in concrete. Okay. If he does that, if he writes something like and says this is how it is and no other way, and it can never be challenged, then he converts that into a religion, or some kind of fundamental code. But a real honest philosopher always keeps things open-ended, just as an honest scientist, a real scientist, keeps things open-ended. Even Richard Dawkins keeps things open-ended. Even he said that he is 4% agnostic. So, no, I have to really credit him for that. And Dr. Benatar is very, very open-ended, and when he talks to people, he has a very mild voice. He doesn't show his face, because this man has gotten death threats like you cannot imagine. A meek and mild and harmless professor making a philosophical, harmless, meek and mild proposal of maybe we better not to put an existence into the world. And boy, does he get in trouble with society. Boy, do people get furious. That's almost like they almost react like their life is threatened or something. And I've seen that in chat rooms. So I've seen that whenever I talked about antinatalism in the past. People will come after me like with pitchforks, like, you want to kill babies? Hello, I didn't talk about killing anything. I'm talking about maybe it's better not to have babies, right? That's all I'm talking about. I wasn't even talking about abortion, not even that. Just like use birth control? Huh? Maybe, yeah, maybe. Is that threatening? It seems threatening to some people, very threatening. Some people feel so threatened by that. My gosh, what's going on here? Okay, so obviously it's challenging their religion. It's also challenging their egos, which have identified themselves with, I must procreate to proliferate, the me. So, in that sense, for sure. So, now that's all ego-based. Religion is also extremely ego-based. That's not decentralization of self, from self, okay? So, ego-based thinking, like me, proliferation, like my genes. My goodness. I mean, the self-importance, like off the charts with people all the time. Like I see women, let's not even talk about the male world. I see women in hospitals desperately trying to make themselves fertile with toxic pharmaceuticals, right? So that they give birth. I mean, a lot of women that are like literally toxic and acidic, and their bodies refuse to get pregnant, but the ego says, I'm gonna make you pregnant because I need to proliferate my fucking genes, okay? Or I need to be that good housewifey that my Catholic religion has drilled me into, or those kind of things that are going through their minds, okay? I have disdain for it, to say the least, because I find it frustrating, okay, to be very euphemistic in my expressions. Very, very, very frustrating and very annoying, okay. And that's why I make videos, because I need to shake people up about this. Often I find myself telling these women, what is going on, okay? Why don't you get healthy before you get pregnant? Maybe that would work better, right? I mean, not like take toxic pharmaceutical drugs on top of their already struggling systems. And then what will come out of that? How will that embryo feel? How will that living being feel once born? Maybe that really messes with that child's brain. You have no idea what terrible things that can cause a living being. So all of this is so neurotic and so unwell, what I see in the world. And the second thought is, maybe you should get out of that hellhole hospital, get well, like go on raw plant food, right? And stop your job where your boss is shouting at you. Maybe that would be a beginning, okay? And you start to take care of your body. You start to take care of yourself. You go and have some massages done, okay? And maybe you should leave your husband if he wants you to sign up life insurance so that he can oust you one day when he's done with you. Or maybe you should be done with those type of men. Maybe that would be a real start, a real honest to goodness self-healing path. Okay? Just these very simple, straightforward things. And maybe you should let off that idea, this fixed idea of having to proliferate your genes. Maybe you need to just give it a break for a while, at least, right? And think about the billions of dogs that are on death row in animal shelters. Maybe you should give one of those a chance instead of throwing another litter into the world. I'm sorry, that's frustrating to me, all of this. That's why it comes across like I am annoyed, which I am. It comes across as that what it is. So it's very annoying why people don't get the right thoughts on their own. Why someone has to say these things to them. But these women, they usually don't write back. They think there's an alien talking to me from outer space, or they just think, oh, I am some kind of freakish hippie or something. They won't write back, or I'm a sacrilegious, or I'm the devil. Oh yeah, that makes a perfect sense. I must be the devil because I care. Okay. Or they get so fumingly mad that they will write back, and I have seen so much hatred from women responding to me. When I'm trying to help them, I'm taking time to help them, to give them good advice, but their egos just completely lose it, and they're so enraged over what I say. Some of them wish me death and all of that. Some of them threaten to kill me and all of that. That would not be a good idea, to take it on with Big Mama Nicola. No, that would. Some of them said, like, they will kill me and then throw me into their compost. Bro, I hate to say it, but it's gonna be reversed. Okay. You're gonna end up on my compost, or maybe on your compost. Either compost will work. Okay. But yeah. I have feelings. I'm alive. I'm not some God leaning over and saying, you are all good, because you are all not good. That's why. Okay. And I have feelings, and people are not being good. People are ego driven, like complete manic bath salt, totally twisted, crazy, insane. Okay, that's how people are. And I'm trying to help. I'm trying to set things straight with my videos. That's all I'm trying to do. Set the records straight here. Okay. When I was pregnant, one time I remember, because the pregnancy, I was pregnant 3 times, and it would completely mess with my brain, because there's a surge in hormones going through the body for every woman who gets pregnant, that there is enormous stuff happening in the body. Okay, and for me, any kind of surge or any kind of shift or any kind of imbalance, I don't want to call it, it's not imbalance, but any kind of hormonal flooding or something like this, which I already have without being pregnant, but I have like overload of oxytocin and estrogen, and that is very difficult to live with. Okay, very difficult, always has been. But then when you're pregnant, then it just completely is, that it's just a complete flooding, and it messed with my brain. And at that time I was still going to bars with my girlfriends, and we were drinking beer, and that was really bad, and that was really, really hellish. And I remember, a lot of punk bars, and usually it was guys that were like starting to become physical with us, and I would, to protect my girlfriends and myself, I would shake them on their literally on their collars, and then they would let off. Those are usually the ones that were completely drunk, so they're not a match for me. A drunk man is not a match. But once in a while there was a woman who was going at my throat, and it didn't take me very much to shake her off, because most women are a couple of inches shorter than me and much more petite, and it was usually the petite type of women that would come at me, and I would go like, seriously? And just single-handedly, literally, would grab them by their sweater and shake them off, just like a bug or something. Even though I had beer in my brain, I was able to do that. So, I have a lot of, and it also takes, there's a force inside of me. I mean, I'm also very muscular, but there's a force inside of me that does not allow anyone to come at me in any way, neither psychologically nor physically, or my family. So I am a very fierce guard dog. I'm a very fierce protector. That's for sure. So, but in regards to antinatalism, that's just a very logical conclusion. To not bring another suffering being into this world. And Elon Musk, I know he's the Buddha level soul. I know he's here to help us. That's why he wants to save the human species. He came here to help. He's the Arche Noah. Okay, so that is who he is. If that Arche Noah has ever existed, if that's a real story of a real person, then that is who Elon Musk is. So I need to put things into perspective for people. Just because the corporate agenda told people not to like Elon Musk doesn't mean you have to not like Elon Musk. Just because you're told to not like Elon Musk. The same was when they tell you not to like Friedrich Nietzsche, then you don't like Friedrich Nietzsche. So the same thing, But you're told to like Jesus, right? But you're not allowed to like Nietzsche. What if that's the same soul? I mean, it's just a question, but what if, right? What if? Then what? My goodness, then your whole life is turned upside down and inside out. Over and over and over and over and over and over. Shaken up. Jumbled up. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to shake you up and shake you loose and free from the dogma. Not free from dogs, but free from dogmata. Dogmatization, indoctrination. Shake you free from that, okay? So that you can you can collect your senses. You can come to your senses, and you can look at the world for what it actually is. Bill Gates is a greed ape. Look at it for what it is. Okay? Jeff Bezos is another greed ape. It is obvious and right in our faces, right? Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know, he seems to be pretty greed apish too, right? I was hoping for a very long time that he isn't, but seems like he is. So he puts the income, the money that flows into Facebook over people's safety. That's total greed apish. Okay, totally. Let's look at it for what it is. Dr. Benatar, on the other side, writes a harmless book. Maybe we better not to put another existence into the world. He isn't even talking about animal birth. He's talking about a human. Right? It's really rough. He makes that argument and says that no good can justify any form of bad in an existence. Would you like to have an amazing, great life and then at some point be abducted and tortured for a month or two until you die? I mean, like, is that justifying? Is that being justified? You know, that horror, because you had it good and you had wealth before that. That's why rich people become very paranoid, and rightly so, because a lot of rich people have been abducted, kidnapped for ransom money and stuff like this. That Natalee Holloway, for example, that was a big story a while back. Okay, I just saw another report on it. This is so crystal clear to me. You don't have to be a psychic to see what happened there. Okay. She was abducted. People have seen her abducted. There were 3 guys that abducted her, and they sold her. Probably each one of them got $1,000. They sold her to human traffickers. Okay. And they took her away, and they probably put her into a lifetime prostitution jail. That poor woman, that poor girl. Now, is any good that happened before justifying that ending? That is a real serious question to ask. So that's precisely why I made the decision not to have children. Why I had abortions, early abortions, very early. Because I don't want to let that get really large and then kill that. You know, that would break my heart. I couldn't do it. Okay. That would really break my heart. No, they were like maggots. Okay. And they looked like that too. So one goes through an evolutionary entire, as they call it, an ontological evolution. You know? So the entire evolution from worm to human is represented in the embryonic developmental stages. From worm to human, okay? Literally. Okay? So at that stage of about a month, like a larvae. Okay, so I didn't feel bad at all about this. And we were never drilled with religion. I also went to a very liberal school, so religion was frowned on. And we never heard any of these indoctrinations that people had here. But, it's frustrating for me, but if I look at it from the sky perspective, then I can see that these people here in the United States have been indoctrinated. It is what it is. And it is very difficult for me to put myself into their shoes because I haven't been indoctrinated in this way. What if I had been indoctrinated in this way? What if I had a biological twin who grew up in the United States? Then how would this twin feel? Probably, most likely, also in that direction that the people here are. Okay? Or if it happened to me directly. So, probably in that direction. I don't know for sure. But I have also been indoctrinated. I have been indoctrinated to be absolutely against the death penalty. Okay. Anyone who is for the death penalty gets frowned on, gets snubbed in Germany, my whole life. My grandfather was for kind of reactionary, more in the conservative direction, and my dad made fun of that. And then that shamed my grandfather, and then he kind of buckled down. And then my uncle kind of chimed in and said, "Papa, du bist rechts." I'll never forget that. Which means, "Papa, you are right wing," because my grandfather kind of wanted to brush that off. No, I'm not that right wing. Papa, you are right wing. You better believe it. Yeah, but not near as right wing as many people are in the United States. And looking at it from the sky perspective, I can understand better now. After a lot of thinking and pondering.
Get something to eat.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Now I had to revise my own indoctrination. And now I understand the right-wing people much better with some of their views. And so when I met Paul, I thought for sure he's right-wing, but he was a Democrat at that time when I met him, and he considered himself to be liberal, but he is actually very conservative in some ways. So he's actually not conservative nor liberal. So he's very much a free thinker, and I was not when I met him. I was extreme liberal woke type of that was my entire upbringing. Okay, so there were certain things you're not even allowed to talk about. You're not allowed to talk about the IQ of different ethnic groups and all of these kind of things. You're not allowed to look at the statistics about this. You're not allowed to question the numbers, the data of whatever war crimes that have been committed from the side of the Germans in Germany, that is. You are not allowed to say anything nice about Adolf Hitler in Germany. Okay, so I just want people to know that at least for as long as I exist, I was born in 1965, saying anything nice about Adolf Hitler gets you into trouble. So, well, that shows you that the entire mindset of that society had changed completely into upside down, completely turned inside out, okay? Completely reversed itself since World War II. And yeah, there's a reason for it, of course. They viewed what happened there as an atrocity, they viewed that as a calamity, and it was, of course. And so are those countries that have done the same, and there are many of them. Okay. There have been horrible things happening in the United States. Nobody talks about that. Okay. They were also anti-Semitic at that time in the United States, and that was happening in Italy and in many countries. Okay, even though the United States was then going against Germany and Italy, but they had that mind state going on as well, and that's horrible when there is a mind state of going against an entire ethnic group. Okay, that's total horror. I mean, right there, that is the ticket to war. Okay, let's not make the same mistake again. Really seriously. But that's what was starting to roll up. After the Second World War. And by the time I was born, it was way into wokeism. Flower power also meant well, but brought it more into wokeism, of course. And then just gradually more and more. And then it doesn't use reason. It doesn't see the danger of any kind of development into any kind of extreme direction. Whatever, in any kind of lopsidedness, right? At some point, if you tilt a statue over to one side, if you tilt it enough, it will fall over and crash. If you tilt it to the other side, it will fall over and crash, right? If you tilt it forward, it will do the same, backward the same. Any direction, all the way in the circle. Keep the statue standing in the middle. But that seems to be impossible for people to understand. That you have to look at things critically, and that you have to not go into any direction. Stay away from going into any direction, into any kind of religion or political ideology. Stay away from that. Keep it in the middle. Keep it balanced. Keep that scale balanced. And think also beyond. Go beyond it. Go above it. Look at it from the sky perspective. What about this side is right? What about that side is right? There are things right. There are things right about Adolf Hitler before he became psychotic. He wanted to make the world a better place. Okay, he wanted to outlaw hunting. He wanted to outlaw butchering animals. Okay, he was a vegetarian. He loved animals. He loved dogs. He loved horses. He loved children and women. He was very gentle to them. There was one old lady, before she died, she was interviewed. She was one of his housekeepers, and she said he was always lovely to everyone. Okay. Now, that doesn't sit so well with that victimhood narrative of other people, right? But we have to look at the facts. We have to look at the whole picture, not a lopsided narrative that makes you begin to get enraged or want to go to war, want to take your pitchfork and go after the other group. That does not work. That doesn't work out. It never has worked out. So don't take this lopsided view and run off with it. Don't rocket off with your false ideologies, because all of your ideologies are false and lopsided and angry and unfair and going against the other and being dualistic and never giving the other person any kind of attention, never giving the other person any time to make their points, to say what they have to say. So, now that's a Cold War that leads to a complete war. Let's not do it. Let's not do it anymore. The mafia, the corporate agenda, wants you to be lopsided because they use you like a tool. They want wars because the corporate agenda capitalizes from that on all kinds of levels, with all kinds of industries. Okay. It's horrible. It's horrible how some people are. They can only think about money. And the tool type of people, they can only think about their own personal storyline of being a victim and the other person or other group being the perpetrator. The worst perpetrators on earth feel the worst victimized. This is the truth. Okay. I've been watching a bunch of near-death experience videos. There was this one guy. When he was young, he and his friends, they experimented with different drugs. He passed out and was dead for like an hour, which that's very miraculous, and not even being on ice, not even being on some kind of ice sheet, which that's much more, that happened more often when people were under ice or embedded in ice, that their bodies were protected, their cells were actually refrigerated so that they could be revived. With this guy, he was not in ice, he was in some kind of public bathroom, and his legs even started to get stiff. So that's like, he already had some cell death happening. That's very scary and dangerous. But I heard about another case where a child was actually revived after that. You have no idea what kind of stuff can actually happen. Sometimes it's shocking, absolutely shocking. What the kind of stuff that totally defies any kind of scientific knowledge and knowledge in medicine. So, but this guy, he left his body and he saw this entire place where he was at from above, as if it didn't have a roof. And he went out into space and he met this spirit guide guy that came to him. And the spirit guide said to him that being authentic is the only way for us to exist. There's no other way. And he said, I know that when you are authentic, when you are being really authentic, you're also being vulnerable. So being authentic means you are vulnerable. That's what I mean by decentralization from self. That is exactly that. Okay. So when you are vulnerable, when you're really in a mental state of vulnerability, you're not being aggressive. I'm not always in that decentralized state. I'm a living being like everyone else. I have ego too. But I talk about it because I find it very fascinating, and I want to heal and I want to decentralize myself, and sometimes I am in that process. But then, the next day it will wind itself back up, and then my ego is there again, and then I get upset again because of what I hear, what Paul is telling me about what's happening in the world and so on. But the Buddha is in a state of total decentralization, so from the self, and that is who Jiddu Krishnamurti is, the blue god, the Buddha, Gautama Buddha. And people always say, what would the Buddha say in a situation like that? Would the Buddha go on someone's throat? No, of course not. Because the Buddha has transcended the self. He has transcended the ego. The blue god agrees. 5555. That's amazing. The number of synchronicity. This is really amazing. So when we are in that state of being totally decentralized away from the self, when the me, or when the perception of, I look at the world from this perspective of, I sit here, my dog is over there, I see myself in the video, but when I look at the greenhouse and the garden, I see past my nose. I see the tip of my nose, my big Pinocchio nose, okay? And and I know this is my nose, and this is my beingness, and I am here, and I feel awkward a lot, and I say, what the heck? Let yourself feel awkward. It doesn't matter. The awkward stuff, that is centralization. That's childhood trauma. That's all of that. We need to just be aware about it. Be aware about it. That's all it is. It's an awareness process. Become aware. Then you don't need drugs anymore. You don't need alcohol anymore. You just become aware. You are you, and it's wonderful. And you are precious. You're infinitely precious. I'm not saying this out of some kind of sentimental guru or whatever. Some kind of vogue or popular opinion or cliche. You are precious because you are. You are infinitely precious. And so am I, and so is my dog. And so are all dogs. The Dalai Lama running away on the streets in India, running away from a street dog, homeless dog. He talked about that. The dog was furious. The dog saw him, and the dog was like, what the? I don't want to say the word, And the dog was like, I'm gonna get him, that jerk. Because you'll be very surprised what kind of, oh my gosh, you would be surprised how psychic dogs are. The dog saw in 1 second the entire thing about the Dalai Lama and who he is and who he's trying to be, who he's portraying himself to be. He would never do that if he hadn't been put into that. Okay, he was put into that at age 3, so it's not really his fault. Okay? But obviously the Dalai Lama is not anywhere near a soul developmental state where he could ever be in such a leveraged position of teaching and being a mentor to people. No way. He's like, I don't know, maybe he's like student of life, maybe close to being a light worker, something like that, somewhere like that. Light worker, that's the third soul developmental level. So student of life is second one. So these are just broad categories, but that's where he's at, on a scale from 1 to 8. So he's not there yet. He is not there yet. Elon Musk is the one who should be in that soul educational leverage regarded by society, But no, they regard someone like that, a student of life, who's not there yet. Because they are twisted themselves. Okay? They just take this kid, the kid grabbed that chain, that beads, the wooden beads, and because this kid is more extroverted, that must be the Dalai Lama. Yeah, that's how they reason this. Okay, so that has nothing to do with psychic intuition of who is the next Lama. Okay, so if you want to get into it, watch documentary films on this. Okay, then you will know how they're thinking and what they believe in. Okay, these are just beliefs. Okay, that doesn't mean it's the truth. I see more than that. I see past all of that. I see through all of that. These are deceptions, okay? And there's a big money machine involved in this as well. And who knows how far that whole thing, this entire Buddhist religion, is even involved with the mafia, okay? Who the heck knows how far, okay? I'm just raising questions here, so be very careful what you get into and what you believe. Okay, that's why I'm saying, if you decentralize yourself, if you sit there and you know that you are not important, I bet the Dalai Lama feels extremely important. Okay? That's centralization of self. That's not non-duality, as he claims to have. That's very dualistic. Decentralization means I am not dualistic anymore. I get into that state sometimes, but I have to be honest with you. It's not like super easy. It could be easy, but the ego always lures us back into the dualistic view. Just getting mad at people is, again, you can say, yeah, rightly so, and yeah, my activist in me says that is righteous, but that's not the ultimate state of decentralization. Once you have, and some people call it enlightenment, I really stay away from that term. The state of decentralization is you are just a natural person. Okay, you're not important, and you're just there, and there's your dog, and me sitting here is not more important than him sitting there, and this is not a pedestal here, this is just a folding chair. He could also sit on this folding chair, but it's more comfortable for him to sit there, and he gets the couches, all couches all the time. So he gets put on a pedestal with us. Okay, he's the king. But it's not like he doesn't feel like the king, and I don't feel like a queen, and Paul doesn't feel like a king, and we're natural people. We are a family. We're a family unit. We love each other, whether I sit here or he sits there or he sits there. Okay, doesn't make a difference in terms of hierarchy. That's what I mean by decentralization. Okay, you can sit under a lotus tree or under a purple flower rhododendron tree, and so it's not more enlightened to sit under the lotus tree than the rhododendron tree. Okay, whether you are there or there or there or there, or you are maybe there's a homeless person who falls into a trash can, right? That will feel very humiliating, probably. But he is still equally precious as any living being. Okay, he's equally precious as anyone, you or anyone, or the Queen of England, or whoever people are, you know, or whether they're clean and sitting on a throne, or they're ultra prepped up and smell like perfume, and they're worshipped or whatever, or the homeless man in the trash can. Okay, they're equally precious. Okay, so that has to be understood. Okay. Once this is understood, then we can start to really see the world for what it is. So, baby dog, be easy. No, baby dog, easy. No, he wants to demand. Baby dog, no. Baby dog, no. No. Oh boy, this is so awful with him. This is terrible with him. He wants to destroy everything. Oh man. Gosh. Oh man, that is terrible. Oh, this destruction all the time. Constant destruction going on. Yes. Yes. Yes, the destroyer of everything. Oh yes, that's what he is. Yeah. He has a look on his face now. He's up for it. Now he already went for a walk, but he wants more action. So that wasn't enough yet. Yes. And me here on the computer, blabbing. That's just not enough action. We need more action. He needs to go on a 10-mile hike every single day, and we can't do that. And I feel bad about that I can't give that to him. So 10-mile hike, okay, loop hike. Then he would be finally really, okay, I'm getting settled on the couch now. Okay, with the sleeping bag on me. So once we understand that we are not important, okay, we are not gods, we are not God, we are not the universe, we are part of that. The brain is a universe, yes, that is true, but every brain is a universe. Everyone is part of the infinite cosmos. Everyone is part of the blue God. But we're splinters that are trying, each splinter of that, you know, it started with the Big Bang. Things splintered off in all directions. But then that may also be happening indefinitely many times in parallel Big Bangs and parallel universes. Okay, so when I say the infinite cosmos, I mean infinity itself. So that means indefinite and the indefinite world. And that means there could be many universes, individual universes, like they said. Michio Kaku talked about this, you know, the multiverses and the parallel universes, the parallel realities, different dimensions, you know. So that is very likely the case. I'm sure it is. Okay. I talked to my friend Sandy last night about this. That's very cool to talk about these things. Very, very super. Because it also feels good to talk about this. I believe this to be true. This is not a religion. This is big thinking, this is letting your mind free, to venture out. And that is what it is. There are multiple universes, and they go on indefinitely, and there may be indefinitely many of the exact same things that are happening in this universe, with exactly the same star constellation, stars, planet Earth, and so on. That's why that lady, the filmmaker, kept thinking about this, as a philosophical experiment, made that movie, Another Earth. Now, that theme invites for indefinitely many sequels, okay? That's a series, okay? That's something that invites us to go on with that subject, and just hook on to the last scene and continue it on, because I want to know what happened, because she abruptly stops the movie where the girl, which she plays, where she comes to, and I don't even know which one is which. That makes it even more complicated. But one of them visits the other, so obviously that the one that visits the other is the one from the other Earth. Okay, so she brushes her hand against the side of this one house. She knows everything because it's identical where she comes from. And there she walks towards the house where she lives on the other Earth. But there is the other girl from this Earth standing there in front of the house. And she walks towards. So I don't know exactly now which one is which. Maybe she is. So that's kind of complicated. But maybe the other one visited her and was waiting there in front of the door, while the other one that lives there with the sweater was just coming home and not knowing whether she has already arrived. So, but they finally meet at her house. They walk towards each other, a little bit hesitant. Well, if that happened to me, I would get a heart attack and die right there on the spot. Okay? Because this is just more than this is more than my brain could process. Okay? Because it's starkly shocking, something like this. And the way she made it with so much lightness, that last scene. Yet it also has the spooky aspects that she has woven into the last scene. And here these two girls, the identical girls, walk towards each other and stop, and then the one that was standing in front of the house starting to walk towards baby dog. No, Elon, I'm gonna get real upset now. He wants to demolish everything. So and then the one that was standing in front of the house was starting to walk towards the other. That's what I was worried about. So a Staffordshire, an American Staffordshire. Yeah, that is what you get. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you get. Yeah, you never know what you get. You get an American Staffordshire. You get an American Staffordshire, and I'm gonna get real upset. I'm gonna get real upset. I might have to turn this. Yeah, the paint for the paint. Yeah, I'll show it. Paint on the floor. Yeah, great. I have to clean this.